Hi, everybody. I'll give you a moment to connect to sound. Hello, and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 1289th New Social Environment. I'm Chloe Stagaman, Director of Programs here at the Rail, and I have the extreme pleasure, honor, and privilege of being your MC today for a conversation featuring Duane Michals and Christopher Alessandrini. And now I'll introduce today's guest and host. Duane Michals is one of the great photographic innovators of the last century, widely known for his work with series, multiple exposures, and text. Continuing to push the boundaries of photography, Michals' practice also includes film, painting, and sculpture. His work has been exhibited extensively in the US and abroad. Recent major retrospectives include Storyteller, the photographs of Duane Michals at the Carnegie Museum of Art in Pittsburgh, and others. Over 40 monographs of his work have been published, and Michals lives and works in New York City. And our host today, Christopher Alessandrini, is a writer based in New York, where he currently works as managing editor of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's online magazine, Perspectives. His writing on art has appeared in the New York Review of Books, Frieze, the Brooklyn Rail, of course, Cura, Interview, and elsewhere. His short story, Maverick Road, was published in 5 stories for Philip Guston. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Christopher to get us started with a whole host of gratitude for Christopher and Duane.
Um, Thank you so much, Chloe, for bringing us all together and for that lovely introduction. Thank you, everyone on the call, for joining us during your lunch breaks, presumably. It really was a here comes everybody moment when you all came in, and that was very exciting. And then thank you so much, Duane, for speaking with us today on the occasion of your truly marvelous exhibition at DC Moore right now. I just went this past Saturday and just really stayed with a lot of the work, and it was gorgeous. Anyone here who is in New York, and if you were able to make it, it's up through November 22nd, please go. I believe, Duane, you'll also be doing a book signing. Sorry to plug this, but next Thursday at the gallery, is that
Yes,
true?
yeah.
Yeah. So I
Signing,
heard some
I'm signing telephone books.
exactly.
Bring your own telephone book.
So please bring a telephone book and meet up with Duane then. I'm going to try to make it as well. So without further ado, I think we just want to jump into the show itself. Um, you have so many extraordinary works that you've put together over more than 7 decades, really, and I can only imagine that it was quite difficult to choose what to present here. Could you talk to us a little bit about which sequences, which images you wanted to bring together and why?
Well, we took 2 from category A, 1 from category B, and 3 from category C. No, it's I don't know. I like I like my work. I think I'm terrific, and so when we put something together, we like to put things together that complement and contradict. And so that was about complementary and contradictory and MOUSC. It's a musical background. This
Yeah.
is the Bewitched Bee. Are they looking? Do they see the Bewitched Bee?
Yes, everyone, we're going through one of the first sequence when you enter the exhibition. It's the
Yeah.
Bewitched Bee from 1986.
I love the Bewitched Bee. I like all my stuff, but the Bewitched Bee. I had a great friend, Fred, and then he went and died without asking. And we lived in the country, Lithuania. No, we lived upstate on the border with Vermont, and we had 175 acres and a farm. And I saw a ghost in our farmhouse one night, and it was a ghost of Christmas past, as I recall. But so I had these antlers, and I had to do something with them, and I made up this little story about this. It's called the Witch Bee, and the boy is kissed, stung by a bee, and then the boy wanders into the woods looking for love, and he starts growing these antlers, and it said only bees or something things with furry wings could love an antlered creature, and nobody will love him because he's got antlers. And then he dies. He drowns in a sea of leaves against a tree. And the last picture is the antlers growing out of the leaves. It's quite lovely, actually.
Yes, and I know you've been working with sequences, and there are several of them in the show that we'll go through, but you've been working with those. I mean, I think I read in the Storyteller that the first one was from 1966, so 20 years before this, and it was a woman on a couch, right? And a
Oh yeah.
door opens. Yeah. And it's a very simple sequence, and it's not resolved. Nothing really sort of happens, but she's
No.
nude. Yeah.
Well, it's called The Woman is Frightened by a Door. And a woman is sitting on a couch, nude, and she's reading a book. And to her left is a door. And while she's reading the book, the door begins to open up slowly, imperceptibly. And as so she notices that then the more the door opens, because she can't see who's behind the door. I had to find a situation that had a door where the lady couldn't see. And then as the door begins to open more and more, she becomes more and more alarmed. And then she jumps up. So it's simply the act of somebody reading something, and then something unknown is entering the room. Uh, and that was great.
Exactly.
And I said, no, really, it was great. And I love the idea of, and then I did an early one called A Man Hits Another Man. A guy is walking, is in a room, and he's nude, and behind him comes up another guy, and the other guy hits him on the head and knocks him down. It's the human condition. It's like the Ukraine or the First World War. It's one man attacking another man. And they were all nude and very vulnerable. And nudity is to be vulnerable. And it was so liberating because I could, in 4 pictures, do the most simple act and bring theater. I love theater. I think everything is dramatic.
I mean, that's something that is really, pretty astonishing about your work is the fact that, you came up in the world of photography right at a time when, the decisive moment, Cartier-Bresson's decisive moment was sort of valorized. It was seen, if you're walking on the street, you snap something or it's almost an athletic way of approaching photography, and you have to be very technical about a lot of different things. And I've read so much of your work sort of going against that, thinking about the planning, the staging, the theatrical nature of your
I
own.
was too indecisive. Hmm, that looks good. No. There's a guy jumping. Oh, damn, he jumped into the puddle. I could have had the decisive moment. No, I define myself. I always maintain you're either defined by the medium or you redefine the medium, whatever that happens to be. The way Joyce redefined language, and so I went from the decisive moment to the moment before and after. But I needed time to do that. I needed 3 or 4 pictures. And at the moment, it was, well, I never went to photography school, so I learned nothing about the rules of photography. And the trouble with that is that when you learn the rules, you have to unlearn everything you learn, and I'm not Ansel Adams, so why should my pictures look like him? And you're not me, so why should your pictures look like me? So I love theater. I really do. I think everything is theatrical. And I love Moliere and I love the Commedia dell'arte. And I like hand puppets and anything that William Blake, all theater, and who wrote Lewis Carroll. Like, how great is that?
Exactly.
No, it's great. That's how great it is. That asked and answered. That's how great it is. It's really great.
Exactly. But back to that idea of the sequence and the unfolding images, the indecisive moment, making sure that you capture the before, the during, the after. But so much of your work has to do with transformation or this sort of sense that a moment has passed or a moment is passing. Perhaps it's like sort of captured in the work. There's one incredible one, Chloe, here. It's a man taking his shirt off. And I wonder if we could just go to that. It's sort of about the moment that his body has sort of achieved this formal perfection, and he doesn't
Oh, yeah,
even.
that's not it.
No, yeah, not
About a
this
man
one.
in
Oh,
a
there we
room.
go, 55.
There it
This
is.
one.
Yeah. But what was interesting to me was uh, like, what moment did I become old? Was it January 12th, 2012? What was the exact moment? It's not. Everything is evolving, moving in transition. And I had this idea there must be one moment when I reached my perfection, and then the very second later, I began to decline. And he didn't even know it had happened. When was that exact moment I became middle-aged, or when did I become a teenager? So I wanted to commemorate that exact moment when he became perfect. And then by the time he took his shirt off, he'd already begun to decline. I thought that was interesting. And also, I love empty rooms. I see rooms as stage sets, and that's very theatrical. Why is he in that room? What's going on there? The mystery. Photographs should provoke. They should not tell you the facts. I don't want the facts. I want the mystery. I want to be contradicted. I want somebody to say something. Oh, I'll tell you a story. When Cocteau was a young man, the Andy Warhol of his time, on the make, me. And Diaghilev was a great impresario. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Take notes. If I mention a name, you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. And I'm going to give a quiz at the end of this talk. So Diaghilev was the great impresario of the Ballet Russe, the big moment in Paris in 1970. I don't know when it was. I wasn't there. And so he asked Cocteau if you don't know who these people are, look them up. And so Cocteau went to Diaghilev and he said, Maestro, what do you expect? What do you want? And Diaghilev said, astound me. See, I want to be astounded. I don't want to be told what I already know. I know what sunsets look like. I know what trees look like. I know what tits look like. Contradict me, astound me, take me where I've never been before. And do not ever use the word capture in my presence. Oh, you really capture bullshit. This is from rent erect, my body. Sometimes it used to be from rent and an erection, but that was another story. But see how my mind works? How does your mind work? See, I said wreck, and then I heard the word wreck, and then I thought erection, like that. Think about thinking. Anyway.
Exactly. You do think about thinking, and I've read so many times you've said that, you're an anomaly in the world of photography because you really care about the mind. It's about capturing certain elements of the mind, like the sensibility. And I would love to hear how you sort of arrived at that. So much of it, it sounds like you did not come up in the world of photography through the sort of expected educational routes, which I think has been to your great, yeah, it's been fortunate, really.
I did everything by accident. I was illegitimate. My mother got knocked up once in 1931, and I did a little movie about it. It was called The Rabbit Died. And in Pennsylvania, if a woman gets used to be, if she was pregnant, for some reason they would do something to a rabbit, and if the rabbit died, that meant you were pregnant. So, well, I don't know where I was going with that. I was so dazzled by this dead rabbit with his ears hanging down and his tongue sticking out and and then you see there's the very last wiggle of his whiskers. And and so anyway, I forgot where I was. Oh, I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, we were actually sort of talking about the sort of digressive intelligence that you have, which is great. The sort of case in point right there about how these images come to you, and how you're sort of capturing what's in your mind and sort of seeing it in the world or making it come into being.
First of all, get rid of the word capture. I really don't like capture. Capture is so aggressive, a grab shot, a capture. You don't capture anything. You wake up at a moment and see something, and it imprints itself on you. It's what you notice, what you pay attention to. So when I became a photographer, I went to Russia when I was 26. Well, I guess I was a gypsy. When I was 14 in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, go Tigers. I read in the McKeesport Daily News that if you went to Texas, you could work on the wheat crop and make a lot of money. So I said to my mother and father, I want to go to Texas. And they said, well, you could only go if you can't go alone. So I conned Billy Conley to go with me. I didn't know him very well. We took a bus all the way from Pittsburgh to Kansas, no, to Columbus, Ohio, to St. Louis, to Little Rock, Arkansas, and then Amarillo. And then we hitchhiked north to Amarillo. It was a huge adventure, and I never got the job because I was too small. At 14, I was like this kid, hello, mister, like that. And they wouldn't hire me because I was a bag of bones. And I said, hey, kid, you know what this job means? It means you're going to have to shovel wheat all day long in the hot sun. You wouldn't last for 10 minutes. And there were all these migrant workers with Jimmy Conley quit and he went back to McKeesport, but I stayed for a week and it was a huge adventure. See, when I was a boy, I used to read books about sailing ships and adventures in the South Sea. I was always Ronnie the cabin boy. And then we always got this, the ship wouldn't go because of wind, there was the doldrums and everybody was dying. We were eating lemons and the lemons ran out. We all were puckered. But I was always the cabin boy. Anyway, that's another story.
That's it. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Everyone asked that during the Q&A. Please remember the cabin boy.
Yeah.
But this sense of accident or chance is interesting to me because, there's one work of yours that's not in the current show, but it's called Chance Meeting. And I know when we spoke in the sort of pre-interview, you mentioned the fact that, this is it. Yeah, it's choreographed to look like this is just something that you're capturing or you're seeing on the street. Sorry, not capturing, but just unfolding that you've come upon on the street.
Well, this is pure fiction. This is a huge success. First of all, I don't know how it occurred to me, but I had to find a little skinny street with a narrow sidewalk. And then I had these guys are dressed exactly alike. And as they pass each other, the one guy recognizes or identifies with the other guy. And as they walk by, the guy with the gray hair, his name was Ted Tidlow, an old friend of mine, looks over and he said, do I know him? There's this. And then the moment passes. And after he leaves, the other guy turns around and looks it's a chance that they ships in the night, they passed each other up and didn't see each other. But it's pure theater. I love the silhouette. It's like kabuki. And, if this was in Japan, they'd go like this, But I think it's absolutely lovely and it still holds up. Each generation sees this, responds to it. It always has a fresh self-life. It's not like a interesting picture of somebody jumping over a puddle, then what happened, No. These are always, then what happened,
Exactly. And that there's this sense across the show right now that's up. The show is called The Nature of Desire, and that image, maybe if we could go to that, there is a nude body, and there are these also celestial body, nude human body, but also the intimation of celestial bodies and this sort of notion of perception and scientific observation as well. And bodies moving through space in the universe and bodies moving on this planet in this sort of choreography that we don't understand because we're all just wandering around bumbling.
Well, I'm my biggest fan. This is very difficult to take because that's a double exposure. And I had that picture out of some sort of astronomy book of those circles. And then I wanted to double expose him, but I wanted his hand to be as if he was pushing this circle like Sisyphus. And amazingly enough, I guess that's a guess. And it arrived exactly where I wanted it. And then you have the circle of his ass, and then the two circles on the right could be balls. And then he's pushing this. He is like Sisyphus, pushing this great sexual desire forever and ever. And it's mysterious. I don't want the facts. This is a very mysterious picture. And it's demanding. You have to look at it and think about it. But I did an earlier double exposure of a male nude and a female nude. And the guy was about 6'2" or something, and the woman was about 5'8". And so I wanted to overlap the two faces. So her face would go into his face, and they would overlap each other a little strip. But because of disparity in their sizes, I didn't want, and I got it right. I got the heads coincided, their bodies coincided perfectly. And that's pure magic. See, photography should not be about facts. Photography should be about magic. Photography shouldn't tell you what you already know. It should contradict what you think you know and take you someplace else. This picture about desire, I think it's a beautiful picture. And I love the idea that a wheel, that's like a celestial wheel. It's the planets. It's
Exactly.
Ooh.
Everything is being kept in motion. Exactly. But through these things that we don't even know, the people just moving around us as well, keeping everything going. This idea of myth and mythology, I know there's another one that we don't have the image of here, but that I was looking at late last night. With Narcissus turning into a bunch of narcissi, yeah, all the flowers that you've taken and sort of placed over his face. Is what is it about the sort of mythological realm that you find so appealing?
Well, myths, Greek myths, they're the foundations of our culture. Every society comes up with myths. And what are our myths? Donald Trump. Oh, watch it. Yeah, I just farted on Trump. Anyway, no, but it's all about myths. And everything we do is we cultures invent myths to explain reality to this, to explain what they're experiencing. We're all overwhelmed by the galaxies and here you see those. Let me make sure those astronomy, whatever, zoology, zodiac starts with a Z. Zodiac. Gee, Mrs. Feeney, did I win the spelling bee? Zodiac. And, and so it's numbers. And this guy's mythical. He's in the clouds. He's Zeus. And he's pushing out the universe away from him. We're the center of our own universes. And he is literally pushing it out into space. That's marvelous. I had to make that happen. I did. And why do I have nude people? Because the nude is the great myth. And of course, being a gay guy, I like to look at beautiful bodies, and he's mythical. I think we'll call him Zeus from now on. Zeus, the goose.
Who's the
Everybody
goose?
want goose Zeus? Bruce wants the goose Zeus. What else is Zeus? Zeus, Bruce. Where do you go with that? Okay, ask me another one.
Sounds like we're going to rename this work after the call today.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious. So transformation is something that is a huge part of your practice, and this idea that an image can be changed by the text that it appears with, right? And this notion also that you've had about sort of photography not as documentary evidence, but as a sort of different kind of proof. Chloe, if there's an image from the sort of early section that's not in the show, um, about this, and maybe we could just talk about this one for a second. Let's see. It should be a couple on a bed, I think, right? Number 20.
Oh yes, and they're embracing. Yeah,
Exactly. And I
yeah.
don't know if you could just tell us about this, how it came together. It's called This Photograph is My Proof. I don't know if you want to read the caption. I
Oh
find this
yeah.
one's
It
so
says,
moving.
that's it. This photograph is my proof. There was that afternoon when things were still good between us, and we were so happy, and we embraced. Look, see for yourself. It's when I see those pictures of dead soldiers in the Civil War at Appomattox Courthouse, their bloated bodies, and next to their, that the Civil War has more meaning than just reading about 20,000 soldiers were killed during the Civil War. But then you see the dead soldiers, you can almost smell the stink and the stench and then the flies buzzing around them. Well, in this case, that's my cousin Kenny and Phyllis, and that's my old bed when we lived next door to my grandmother. I used to sleep in that bed, and they were visiting, and they had just become married, and I love the idea that she's embracing him, and now, you know, they're both dead, and they grew up, and they were having some difficulties after a couple of kids, and you know, the usual things that happen to people in relationships. But I thought, if they got divorced, look, you could still see we were in love. Look, and here's proof. That's how happy we were. And Phyllis was Jewish, and we were Catholic, blah, blah, blah. And Phyllis said to me when she came to visit my grandmother's house that she did not feel welcome. And I was amazed because we are the most liberal people I've ever known. And, you know, my grandparents would hug a squirrel if it decided to move in with us. We were very liberal, and so I was so disappointed to hear that she didn't feel comfortable. And they're both dead, and they had a son, they had two children, but years later, when they might have been squabbling and maybe unhappy for whatever reason, and she could look at that picture and say, yes, look, we were the happiest people in the world. You know, and I love the suggestion of the bed, which you don't have to see them fucking, but it suggests the eroticism, and they're like growing out of the bed. You know, and the fact that she's hugging him, I think is lovely. That he's not all over her, you know, and they're just, that's a joy to look at that picture. And I added, of course, I added the title later and all that, but and this is one of our more popular items. You would be so surprised how many people respond to this picture. And without the text, it would be quite different. It's just a picture of a nice young couple on the bed, but the text, it's like a silent movie. The text brings voice and theater to them.
Exactly.
It's Phyllis and Kenny. See you soon in Deadland. What if Deadless, you know, Deadless was dead? When he died, when he was born, was he called Aliveless and then Deadless? When Aliveless died, he became Deadless, more or less Deadless. Anyway,
I like the more or less in there.
I digress with Deadless. Okay.
But I love what you just said, right? The text is bringing out something. It's as you said, it's like a silent film, but it's also revealing something. The text and the image are teasing information and feeling out from each other. And I'm so curious that sort of sense of intimacy or the sense of, how a caption, which traditionally has been more informative. It's telling you what's in an image, it's sort of bluntly descriptive. Your captions don't work that way almost ever, as far as I've seen them. They give you information, of course, but it's not.
I'm sorry. Start all over. I wasn't listening to you. I was thinking about something else.
Oh,
Say it again.
no. I think one of the things I'm wondering here is just how text and image really play with each other in your work, and how it's not purely informational or descriptive. They're teasing things out of each other and revealing a secret in some way.
I'd have to talk about what you cannot see in the photograph. People assume that the photograph tells you everything. It doesn't. Photographs lie constantly. They can be manipulated. And my bottom line is, don't tell me what I already know. But I've always loved myths and stories, and I'm very verbal. I get paid by the word, don't I? Yeah. I'm very verbal, and I love I'm doing a series of photographs now using boxes, and you see a man, and I painted a big box blue. You see a man inside a box, a blue box, but you don't see his head. You see this blue box walking through the woods, and then you see from the side, you see me with these big sticks, and I begin to beat the box and knock the box down, and then it falls over, and you see the guy inside the box. It's called, I had a title, which I thought was funny. See if I can remember the title. Oh, it was called Boxtrot. And I'm doing a trilogy there, 3 of them. A guy comes out of the subway in a suit, and he's coming up the steps, and a box falls from the sky and lands on his head. And then I put a mirror where his body is. So, you know, he doesn't have body because he's reflecting the street. And then the hand comes out with a big mirror, round mirror where his face is. And he keeps walking forward and everything becomes a jumble. And then in the big mirror, you see the wall of the park. And then he's standing by the wall and the box flies away. I'm going to do one more. See, I don't know what that means. But it's fun. Anyway.
Speaking of fun sequences, I think Things Are Queer, I know, is a very popular sequence of yours. And I'm curious, speaking of things that sort of don't make immediate sense and they're not supposed to sort of
No.
cohere in the ways. Yeah. Can we talk about this one?
Yeah. I live on 19th Street and I was walking across 19th, you try saying that 20 times in a row, 19th Street, 19th Street. I was walking across 19th Street between 6th and 7th, and I looked down in the basement, there was this show window, and in a window was that bathroom. I thought, what the hell's that? And so I went down, and it was actually a fire extinguisher store. And I said to the guy, what's that bathroom? He said, well, my father was a plumber and he died. And in his plumbing shop, he had that in his window as plumbing display. And I said, well, can I take a picture? He said, okay. So I took the first picture with the bathroom. And then I asked my friend, I forgot his name now, to come. And I put it together. So I photographed. I was worried that the guy wouldn't let me in the window again, but he did. So I photographed this Bigfoot in the bathroom, and then I cut it out, and then I pieced together this story. So it's like Alice in Wonderland. You keep going. The next story reveals something else, then it becomes a circle, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you see at the end, you realize you've come complete circle. And I'm trying to remember the guy whose leg was in there. And he's a photographer too. And then at the end, you can see how dirty that he wouldn't let me touch it. He wouldn't let me dust it off. I think it's an amazing thing. You see, I just heard Diaghilev said, when I said to Diaghilev, what do you want? And he said, astound me. Okay, Diggy, Duane will astound you. Anyway. So I think it's astounding, and every generation is astounded by it. It has legs, and it's not like showing you another parking lot in Tokyo or a mannequin in a window. Well, anyway.
Yeah. In terms of other sort of images you've done that are sort of surreal or playful, I wonder if we could talk about some of the painted tintypes that you've done over the years, and also maybe use that as a way to move into this conversation about literature and how significant it's been to you. I know James Joyce is a huge presence, but
yeah, no, it's true. And so I view the key word, as I said, is imagination and storytelling and myths, but you could walk around the street forever, walk through Central Park and to see the park turned into a jungle. I did a guy, I had a lot of plants in my apartment. I have lots of plants. And I was looking at Rousseau. Look up Henri Rousseau's picture of the French painter, primitive, of a jungle. And there's a lady on a maroon sofa in the jungle, and there are big leaves. And I love that painting. There are two paintings I used to visit at MoMA. One was Rousseau and jungle, and the other one was, don't tell me, the other one was, Balthus' street scenes. And look up Balthus, Balthus. He did an artificial street, and that led me to set up my artificial street. I forgot where I was going with that. Do you remember what I was talking about? I forgot.
You're talking about plants in your apartment. If we were going back
yes.
to
So I saw these plants and I thought, wow, I could make my own roost. I have enough jungle. And then I got my friend Danny Mafia, and I got this young. And years later, I was working with these two brothers, and it turns out that their mother was the lady in my jungle. What are the odds? And anyway, so then I turned my living room into a jungle. And that was very liberating. Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. And if you've ever heard of Rousseau, look him up, dummies. Look him up. No more street pictures, no more chits in the window. Look up, check out your brain. Okay? Please. Like I care. Anyway.
Do you want to go to Paradise Regained? Speaking
Yeah.
of the sort of
Yeah,
the
you
jungle.
have it here?
Yeah, I think we do have it here. And I think it would just be fun to, yeah, I don't know if
There
we
it
can.
is. Yeah. Those are my plants, and that's Danny Mafia. And you see, there's a clock on the mantle, and the whole thing, every minute I would run in with another. I didn't realize it. I would, because a clock is a dead giveaway of how long it took me to do this. And I did about 3 times to get it right. It was like a I was going to say Max Ernst, Max said a movie with the guy running in with plants and, take your clothes off, and it's lovely. And look at the clock on it's the details that are so interesting too. I still think that really holds up. That was one of the very first pictures I ever did like that.
No, and I think in some of your sort of more autobiographical sequences, right? You like, you have these sort of there's this mythic quality. They almost become fables as a way to sort of like address some of the things in your life. There's Return of the Prodigal Son. Oh, there's The Fallen Angel. I mean, I would love to talk about this sequence. I think it's exquisite,
That,
but
that's very early. Well, that's Danny Mafia again. Danny was a great, wonderful artist. And that's in his apartment. And I had this idea of the things changing. And a guy is an angel, a very horny angel, apparently. And the lady in the picture is his girlfriend, and she would not pose nude. But so he comes upon, and that's Danny's one of his drawings between the windows. And he goes in there, and I couldn't show them fucking or screwing, but you could show them being together. And I like when she opens up her sweater, or not sweater, they're her, and then he's humiliated and he's defeated and he's guilty and all those negative things. So the guy leaving is not at all the guy arriving. And so something had to happen, and he lost his wings. And it's a very romantic, and it's a very traditional. It's like a Greek myth, you know. Sisyphus was not a sissy; he was a horny sissy. And here's that's my grandmother, my father's mother, and she had this is very early, and she had Alzheimer's. And when I wanted, if well, I kept the frames all the same like a movie. But if I did this again, I would have the camera come in where you see he touches her on the shoulder, and I should have focused on that because that's the gesture. And once he touched her on the shoulder, I asked her to get up, and she got up very slowly. And I wanted it to look like her particles were blasting out, where she was disintegrating into particles and her atoms back into the universe. And she died not too long after that. I think because she got up so fast, and it was but and look at all that, and that's very old, that picture, and this is
there's another one that you have the human connection, right? Where the man is standing in the subway and then he ends up
well,
almost exactly what you're
yeah,
describing, becoming this sort of cause. Maybe we could just go through this one. It's
yeah, this is wonderful too because keep your eye on the little clock and see the train comes in, and then he begins to turn, but see the clock, watch what happens to the clock. Keep going, you see, and then the clock becomes that's Andromeda, and the clock becomes another galaxy. So I turned a guy. That's amazing, actually, to take a guy about to get on the subway train, and he got off at Andromeda stop rather than, 23rd Street.
exactly wrong stop. But I love that sort of cosmic correspondence. I'm always seeing in your work, individuals and then this like larger scheme that they're completely unaware of, that's
Yeah.
moving all around them and they're sort of swept up in it. But you have these moments where people are brought together or not. And something you said about the one with your grandmother, that sequence, is that, that gesture of death touching her on the shoulder. There's another work in this show called Just to Light His Cigarette Was a Pleasure.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And
And
that's like about the gesture, right? But it's not a sequence. It's a single.
no, but it's in a sequence, but a sequence does not necessarily have to be a little movie. It could be a group of related photographs. So in this case, it's again about being. I don't like Maplethorpe at all, but this is about two men, and they're in a domestic situation, a kitchen, and the one man is sitting and his feet are forward and his feet his legs are forward and his feet are erect, his toes are, and then the other guy is leaning toward him like supplicating, yeah, and he's lighting a cigarette, and that's all that's happening. And so he says, just to light a cigarette was a pleasure. And when you love somebody, just you want to do even the smallest gesture for them. And of course, the cigarette's a phallic symbol and the flame is, but I think it's a very beautiful sequence about love and the light. It's theater, it's pure theater, you know. Yay for me.
I know this sort of small act of intimacy and devotion, that you're talking about here. You find a funny way of sort of subverting that with the I build a pyramid, right? These
Oh,
massive monuments to
yeah.
great pharaohs, to all of their achievements. It's all about the sort of worldly glory. You
Oh,
know, I can't help but think of it as sort of, the inverse in some ways of that small gesture of lighting someone you
this
love.
is well, that gesture is intimate but heroic, and this is heroic but intimate.
Exactly.
I'm so thrilled. I love this. I cannot tell you how much I like it. When I was a boy, I told you I used to build little model cities. So I did. French publisher asked me to do a book on Egypt, and I said, "Oh yeah." And I love the idea. I thought, why don't you build your own pyramid? Because that's what I do naturally. But it's so beautiful that gesture. And I wonder if my pyramid's still there. Maybe some people think it's the top of a pyramid, But of all the people that are photographed, the pyramids, from Francis Firth, I mean, all the people, and I'm the only one who built my own pyramid. What balls, what chutzpah, you know, what a hairy guy I am to build my own pyramid in front of the real pyramid. And mine's bigger than theirs, if you notice. Uh, I absolutely love it. If I had done nothing else but build this pyramid, I would be tickled with me. I'm tickling me. No, I think it's a wonderful thing.
I know. No, this one's great. But speaking of hairy characters, not to make a very easy transition over to the Walt Whitman sequence, I wonder, there's an entire wall in this show, right, that is dedicated to some works from
Oh, I
that.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we could talk about that and also talk about the influence of Whitman. And I also know that there is a portrait, with Cavafy here. So maybe the two of them, what they've meant to you, how you
Well,
translated their work.
when I was 15 and living in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, which is a little steel town, and I grew up on a dirt street with the woods at the end of the street, which was very big for me. And I always had this sense of adventure. But anyway, my mother worked in a department store in Pittsburgh, Kaufman's, which is like Bloomingdale's. And I used to go to Saturday classes at the Carnegie Museum for Precocious Kids when I was at high school. Then I would come to town, and my mother and I would bring the train back to McKeesport. To kill time, I would go into the bookstore, and I found this amazing book of Walt Whitman, illustrated by Rockwell Kent, and it just killed me. The book was everything, and so I became an authority on Walt Whitman. Well, I was a pretend authority. I went, anyway. And so there's a story in there that which opened my head. And it said, I'll paraphrase. It said, when I heard in the Capitol that I had been mentioned by the president and honored, I was not happy. And when I heard that I had won a prize, I was not happy. And when I heard that something, I was not happy. But when I heard that day, that morning, my lover was coming and he would be with me that night, then I was happy. What? Amazing. See, astounding, amazing. And I did a picture based on Walt Whitman in New York. And he's coming out of the subway. The guy's coming out of the subway and he's holding up the New York Times, but he's silhouetted. The light is coming between him and you see his silhouette in through the newspaper. And I wrote, when I heard that I had been mentioned by the president, I was not happy. And so Whitman unlocked, he had a big key, he put it in my ear. No, Whitman opened me up. Who opened you up? Who freed you from your prejudices? Who contradicted all the lies you were told as a child? When I was a boy, I believed every lie the Catholic Church ever told. Everyone. I used to mea culpa myself and all that to death. And then little by little, I began, unlearning is very difficult. And so I did this book, and I found this old farmer up in the country who looked like Walt Whitman. And this is John, my great model. And I did 2 books using him in them. And we're still great friends. And he has wonderful children, and he's all grown up now, and his kids are grown up. But he was the model in all my pictures about Whitman. And it was the perfect, Whitman liberated. Oh, and then I went to Esquire magazine sent me to photograph Rockwell Kent. And I took my book with me that I had that I had purchased like when I was 15, and then I was 45 or something. And I went to visit him at his farm upstate. And Whitman was a communist. He'd been to Russia. And when I told him I had been to Russia, we had dinner at his farmhouse. And he gave me a big glass of vodka. When you go to Russia, they give you a big glass of vodka and it gets you very drunk. And so he gave me the glass of vodka. And then I took my book and he autographed it, something like, to Duane Michals and our mutual admiration of the Soviet people and their struggle, We got so drunk, the pictures were okay. I'm a really good photographer. Even bad Duane is good. I wasn't functioning at my best because I was so looped. But anyway.
Exactly. Well, that's actually a great. I'm curious about your commercial photography as well,
yes.
which has been such a huge. I mean, I love that you've spoken so openly about how much you've enjoyed it and
Why should I? Yeah.
Exactly. It's a wonderful thing. And yes, this is what I wanted to ask you about. Because of course this just was released. People have been going wild over it. I don't know if you're getting really strong positive response, but I'm hearing great things from people. And I'm
Oh,
curious, there's this sense of play in this photo shoot that's really coming across. What
well,
was
let me say one thing, or 2 things, or 3 things. And that is, I'm proud of my commercial work. You don't have to say, oh, in spite of you. Are you kidding? You want to hear my secret of success? You find something you love doing and you get somebody to pay you to do it. I love taking pictures. And can you imagine? I was paid a great deal of money to make beautiful women look beautiful. What's the problem? Well, and I did everything. I did the Paris collections for Vogue and Mirabella. I did a fashion comic strip for Mirabella. Yes, I photographed Benson and Hedges cigarettes, and I did that to get back all the money that my father spent on cigarettes. But these were top of the line commercial jobs. I cannot tell you how many I did. I worked for. I can't remember them, but I did everything, and I could do one job and one day and make like $20,000. Get out of here, you know. And when I started out, I was doing a job, and a young woman came up to me and she said, "Are you Duane?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm making a living." And she said to me with great pride, "I would never sell out." You know, and I thought, honey, you have nothing to sell. It's more difficult. You know, it's very easy to go around photographing toilet rolls in men's rooms at restaurants or whatever, blah 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 blah, or parking lots in Tokyo, blah blah, a big parking lot, blah 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 blah. But to have to go someplace and deliver a job, and I did life covers, for Christ's sakes, you know, and I'm very proud of that. And I want, as I said there, you have nothing to sell. So I work both sides of the street. I never want my private work to support me. It is, and that's the thing that pisses me off. Is that appropriate? Is that why do our photographer, young kids, feel that if they sell a photograph, I got $100 for my parking lot in Syracuse. Can you imagine? $100? No, no, no. The reason you did that picture was not for fucking $100. No, the reason you did that picture was the need to express something. It really makes me angry, this snobbery of artists, you know, really.
Exactly. And these sort of like totally artificial hierarchies, which is why I loved seeing this image. Could you tell us a little bit like how the sort of the puppets came into play? There's also a feather in some of the other ones. I hope
Yeah.
people do look it up after.
Because that's part of my vocabulary. And this was the amazing assignment at 93 years old to have them call me up and want me to do what they did a book on this. We made a movie. And so I could do it. And this guy was a big actor. I never heard of him, but he's going to be a big star. And I had carte blanche. And can you imagine? So I had these puppets, and then I had all sorts of things I used. And I had a feather, and then I put a feather on a stick, like I'm fishing a feather. And we did amazing things, and he lent himself to it. It was I amazed myself. But what are better than puppets? You know, that's Pinocchio, and and that's me, Dwayne up a ladder playing with his puppets.
Exactly. I loved your hand gesture over there. The way you said,
It's very theatrical. Um,
exactly.
and let's see, what else did we do? I made him into my workroom, my living room is a woods. When I lived on High Street, as I said, at the end of the street was a woods. And I love going in the woods. And in the spring, there would be, you know, robins and robins' eggs, and there was a pond, and it was magical. And so I turned my living room into the woods. I literally have branches everywhere, and I turned him into a tree in the woods. And I'm either having a stroke or I'm having a moment of amazement. This is a moment of amazement.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things that you've said about photography is just there has to be magic in
Oh,
it, no matter what. And I'm just curious how that sense of magic or play has changed over your career. It sounds like it's very much still present here when you're photographing Jacob Elordi, but I would just love to hear more about that. And
oh
some
no,
things, oh yeah,
no, I'm deeper and deeper and deeper into. I'm up to here in magic. Uh, I rely on magic, and I like that's an early picture. That's up on my roof, and there's something ominous about that. That's a magical picture. I use rooftops, and isn't that beautiful? That tower down there, and then there's that one light, and there's lights in a window that grounds you in reality. But what is that? Is that guy asleep on the roof, dreaming about that ominous figure? You know, and that's by Fred when we first bought that house, and that's Danny Mafia again, the guy that was with angel's wings and with his foot in the bathroom. Anyway,
Right. I love someone once said that your photographs really reminded her of sort of the beginnings of the medium, the sense of excitement and experimentation, where like everything is sort of possible. None of the sort of rules, quote unquote, of photography have solidified. Anything is fair game. And it seems like that spirit is very much still here. And I know that, the early days, a lot of photographers would go around from town to town, almost like alchemists, not like, it wasn't like a studio setup where but it was like they had all these different mixtures and everything to present to the public. And it was a real event when someone showed up in town. I'm curious, this magic that is everywhere in the work. Like, are there any projects that you still want to do, any sort of imagined scenarios that you're really keen to make or that you haven't made?
Well, I'm doing a little movie I make a movie a week, and we've made 150 movies. They're like 5-minute movies. I'm not, what's it called? Scorsese. I mean, I think movies are the great art, not painting or any of that, but movies are the great film of our time, the great artistic things of our time. I make mini movies, and I was having dinner at a restaurant. We're going to do this tomorrow. I was having dinner at a restaurant, upscale, a lady friend of mine, and we were having a good time. And then a young couple, maybe in their mid-20s at the next table, began to engage us in conversation. And as we talked, they were very pleasant. But then I began to realize that they were getting very personal. They asked, for our phone numbers, and then they wanted to know where and so we left, and I forgot my hat. And so I went back to get my hat, and they were leaving. They had my hat. And then they said they wanted to walk me home. And suddenly the tenor of the dinner had gone from a pleasant encounter, it became ominous. And then they walked me home. And so I'm doing a little movie this weekend about it, where I'm going to make a restaurant in my basement with this couple. And then they're going to ask me. The way we wrote the script is it changes from banter, where suddenly when they want to know how old are you, and do there's just this, and then as I walk down the street, you see us walking down the street, and then they're like over here, and then little by little they start getting closer to me. So when we get to my front door, they're like crowding me, and we start going in the house. So I wanted to turn. It's going to be hard to do, but to turn, the mood has to change from a pleasant encounter with two people to it becomes scary. It suggests something scary. I don't know if we could do it. We'll find out.
Oh, that's exciting. And I love that it sounds like it ends sort of unresolved. Sort of like the way your first sequence, the woman is frightened by a door. You have no
Yeah,
idea what's going to come
exactly.
through the
Yeah.
door. I love that.
The reason more people don't do what I do, more photographers, they're wedded. First of all, they bought the rules that to be a photographer means I've got to go to Istanbul and photograph minarets or something, Or like when I went to Russia, photograph Russians, except I learned how to say it in Russian, Можно фотографировать. And anyway, but they don't realize the legitimacy of their mind and the uniqueness. And if somebody just did a little story, I'll say, oh, here's an idea. I'm going to give everybody watching an assignment. Go steal something. Photograph yourself walking down the street, and in 5 or you walk down the street, and then you see a display of apples, or you see outside there's some bananas, or you see a guy in the supermarket. It's harder anyway. So you're walking by that, and then as you walk by, you accidentally kick hit the display, and the bananas fall on the sidewalk. And then you pick up the bananas, you put them back, and then you're going down the street and you pull a banana out of your pocket and you eat a banana. You just stole the banana. Go steal a banana, okay? But try something like that, steal something. But
I love the gauntlet is thrown. Everyone has this assignment. Report back in the chat.
yeah,
And honestly, Duane, thank you so much for speaking with us. I know, Chloe, I think we're coming up on 2, and so I want to make sure that people who have been asking questions this whole time, I'll pass it over. But thank you so much. It's really been
I had a great time. I hope you did too.
I really did. Thank you. And everyone, please jump in. But first, Chloe, there's protocol. Thank you, Duane.
Thank
you so much, Duane and Christopher, for the conversation, which has been such a pleasure. We have a few questions ready to go. And if you have a question for Duane, now is your moment. Feel free to post it at the link in the chat, and I will turn to you next. Duane, the first question is from Henry. Henry is wondering where you would like your photo archives to end up.
Oh, the photo archives. I have a lot of the photographs are in Pittsburgh at the Carnegie Museum, but I'm leaving a lot of them and some things are going to the Smithsonian, and a lot of them are going to go to the University of Denver, where I went to school as a 17-year-old kid on a scholarship. Yeah, so that's where it goes. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because now that I'm old, I have to take care of business. I don't want to leave a mess, and so I'm trying to make sure, I'm who gets what, who, what, why, where, and when, and how did I die? I want to take care of business. Yeah, I have no problem with it at all.
Thank you for that answer, Duane. The next question is from me. I am curious what your first memory of making a story is. What was the first story you ever wrote?
There once was a boy from Dubuque who Dick was the size of a cuke. He went out the street, said, "I think I have to pee," and no, I really don't remember, but I've always. When I was a boy, I had a paper route, and every morning I would get up 6:30 in a cold house. We had a coal stove, and the fire wasn't lit. I would walk my route and come home, but part of my route was walking through this rundown apartment house between block, and I would leave a Post Gazette by one of the apartments, and I was walking through this apartment house, and I found this little magazine, little book on the floor, and I thought, "What's that?" And it was a little book, and it was a dirty book. It was about Mickey Mouse fucking Minnie Mouse, cartoons. I thought, "What's this?" And I always remember that Mickey Mouse fucking Minnie Mouse. But it was a little book, and it was a story, beginning and an end. And anyway, that was my first. And I always liked the intimacy of a book. The idea is books like whispering in your ear. You could take a book to bed with you. You could be in the back of a car while somebody else is driving, and you could read a book. There's just books are one-on-one, and you never know what you're going to get. Don't tell me what things look like. Don't tell me what I'll never see, and shock me, surprise me, contradict me. Books are the best.
Thank you for that answer, Duane. The next question is, can you talk a bit more about magic and your relationship?
Yes. Yeah. Everything is magic. The minute I open my eyes in the morning, I'm in Alice in Wonderland. I mean, look at the human condition. We don't know where we came from. We don't know where we're going to go when there are billions and billions and billions of galaxies, and there may be layers and layers of galaxies. While this planet is going on how many miles an hour, and stars are, and somebody just died, and somebody was just born, and somebody just fell in love. We're in the midst of this. I call it amazement. And I keep hoping somebody could tell me something, but as I get older, I find myself more and more lost. Sometimes I ask for help. Ask and it'll be answered. So I asked the mystery, help me, I'm lost. My guardian angels to guide me, to help me. And I absolutely believe I told you in ghosts, because I have seen 2 ghosts. And I can't wait to see what I'm going to think of tomorrow. And I will think of something. I don't know what it is yet. But anyway, that's my secret.
Thank you for that answer, Duane. The next question, an audience member is curious what type of cameras you use.
Oh, no, please. You know what that is? That's like asking Joyce or Blake, gee, what kind of typewriter do you use? An Olivetti 20 words a minute. My God, that's amazing. No, it has nothing to do with cameras. When I went to Russia, I got an Argus C3, which is a camera I borrowed from Tom Lacey. It's a $13 camera. It has nothing to do with cameras. And the camera should not be between you and the work. You know. And now that I'm old and cock of the walk, I have I did everything by myself all those years. Now I have people help me. I've got great assistants. And if I say, let's photograph everybody upside down, and they say, all right, we'll take the camera and we'll turn it upside down, and there we are. And it's not about, gee, should we use the 27Q, no, don't talk to me about cameras,
Thank you for that answer, Duane. That's going to conclude our Q&A. So it is now time for your reading to conclude the.
Oh, yes. That's our signal that I have to get off I must get off the phone, get off the throne. You know where the throne is? I'm sitting on a toilet. Okay, here I go. All right, read a few of the things. Oh, yeah, this is, I wasn't going to read this, but I like it. I'm going to read it. Oh, do I have a magnifying glass? Oh, dear. Okay. I should have asked for a magnifying glass. Okay, it says, I'll read. The type is small. This is an introduction. It's questions without answers. And it says, while wandering in Arcadia is the mythical country in history. While wandering in Arcadia, I chanced to meet myself with a young man. What are you doing here? He asked me if I knew the things in life he should pursue. And I thought and answered as best I could. If I were he, I would ask questions because the universe is life is a great question, and no question will be answered until you first ask it. So his task is to ask. And I can't read it. I'm sorry. Do you have another pair of glasses? No. Okay. And then I'll read the first line of a lot of these. And here's another one that says, the universe is, you know what? Why don't you read it and I'll mouth it? Okay. Is there a chair here? Okay, read this with that.
This is Caroline.
Yeah, you be there and I'll pretend I'm reading it.
This one?
Yeah.
The universe, sorry.
This time with feeling.
Okay. The universe is a solid emptiness, a bizarre event, an issuance of energy witnessed as colossal globes of constellations, floating in a sea of swelling space in such numbers and dimensions as to dwarf our modest comprehension. This peculiar enterprise, which defies the logic of our eyes, is a Chinese box of concentric worlds, each inside of one another, that extends in all directions ad infinitum. This swirling spectacle fills our night skies with stars like strings of pearls, and has its center everywhere in this strange conundrum. This cabinet of curiosities expands in some exotic vacuum void where alchemist tricks are employed. How else to explain why all the light of refracted prisms is detained in black hole prisons? And what of matter's missing weight in the fate of giant red stars, those enormous bloated monstrosities?
Good. Is that the whole thing?
Hmm?
Oh, I should have written more. Okay, let's read What Are Dreams? Oh, I know some of this. Dreams are the midnight movies of our mind. What's it?
Where the Sphinx recites his riddles to the blind.
Where the Sphinx recites his riddles to the blind.
And as our daydreams sleep, our night dreams come awake.
And as our daydreams sleep, our night dreams come awake.
Phantom visions float as we in reverie recline.
And phantom visions float as we in reverie decline.
On this slumbering plain, a zephyr fans the embers of lost dreams.
On this slumbering plain, the what? Zephyrs?
Yes, a zephyr fans the embers of lost dreams.
Zephyrs are warm, light summer dreams, winds.
To flames that pantomime their shadows on our brains.
To flames that pantomime their shadows on our brain.
Where things look familiar, yet not all at the time, yet not at all the same.
Where things look familiar, yet not at all the same.
In this
conundrum, right?
In this conundrum's hallucinations, the strange become.
Conundrum is a puzzle.
The ordinary without surprise, and desire and terror thrive side by side. I wander down the Passage Vivienne.
Okay. The Passage Vivienne, if you go to Paris, go to the Palais Royal and go to the far end, and behind the Palais Royal is the Passage Vivienne. And Passage is like a street with, over it is glass, and there's stores in there. It's magical. Okay.
And in its windows see displayed what might have been, and I commit my sins again. In lucid dreams, the dreamer comes awake and sees that what he thought was real was fake. As I write, I know now too that the universe is a great dream room, imagined by our senses in this womb. It is our enigmatic fate that what we must dream in time and wait.
That we must dream in time and wait. And one last thing I want to read, and that is the 4 Ages of Man. You see it? This is infancy.
The dark sea journey to a dawn's light, all is pee and sucking appetite. Everything he sees is he, baby cries, and in his sleep he dreams of falling from the sky. Now hush, hush, and lullaby.
Childhood.
First the grasp, then crawl to walk, and talk, then run to school and fun.
Let me say that too. First the grasp, then crawl to walk, and talk, then
run to school
and fun. Okay.
The world's a room, and mom and dad are sun and moon.
Sun and moon.
Children are the last to speak the twittering sign language of songbirds squawk.
Children are the last to speak the twittering language of songbirds talk.
And know the words of fairy tunes that they'll forget so very soon.
Okay. Adolescence.
The sprouting shoot hardens and extends a fuzzy chin.
The sprouting shoot hardens, that means he's getting an erection, and
extends a fuzzy chin.
And extends a fuzzy chin. Beard.
The telltale signs the boy is ripening on the vine.
The telltale signs the boy is ripening on the vine.
The awkward right-angled days begin. His childhood days were foolish whims.
His childhood days were foolish whims. This is that youth? Youth.
The peak of promise has arrived. This is the fair and lovely season. Before time and age commit their treason.
Before time and age commit their treason.
And burrow furrows in the brow.
And burrows furrow in the brow.
Danny is now called Dan. This is the year manhood began. He is a warrior now.
Danny is now called Dan, and he's a warrior now. In maturity, right?
It is the center of his life. He's been to war and wed a wife. He has a kid or maybe 2 and does the work his father did. He didn't know what else to do. His days have now become a habit. He is no more the Randy Rabbit.
I think that's lovely.
The warrior has now become a worrier.
The warrior, kill, has now become the warrior. Oh no, how can I pay the rent?
middle age.
What's that?
Middle age.
Oh, middle age. Okay.
So this is who he came to be. Perhaps he should have gone to sea. It's true he never was the best and doesn't talk much to his wife, but it's more or less the life he chose. He's more or less content. Perhaps he should have gone to sea. It's all irrelevant.
It's all irrelevant.
Old age.
Old age. Here I are. Here I are. Okay.
Pain denies that pleasure which once was, and cheats.
I'll repeat it. Pain denies the pleasure that once was.
And cheats life of all its meaning.
And pain cheats life of all its meaning.
His dear wife has gone ahead.
His dear wife has gone ahead.
Old men sleep alone in bed.
Old men sleep alone in bed.
How quickly it all came down to this.
How quickly it all came down to this.
A sigh goodbye and the memory of a kiss.
A sigh goodbye and the memory of a kiss. Said it? Oh, should have written more. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
There's something else. Anyway, you see? Oh, and look, this is the picture I did for What Are Dreams. You see and that's why today, in the photographs I just did, I use feathers and what else? Yeah, feathers and I crushed a crystal ball in the photographs. And I may be doing an assignment for somebody else, and the portraits will all be done inside of boxes and mirrors. Anyway, see, that's terrific. So what do you think about old age? What do you think about youth? What does it feel like to be your age? Write about your disappointments, not about, the fucking camera, please. Talk about your typewriters. All of you are, every human being is an amazing creature. We just don't know it. So we settle. That's it, we settle. Stop looking for life. Stop. You are life. What does it feel like to be a woman? Take photographs about that kid when you were in high school who grabbed your tit in the what's it, cloakroom or something. Talk about something only you know. Here's why I always tell students when I do a class, I say that everybody has a secret. That's what it is. You have to photograph your own secret. So write on a piece of paper your secret that you would tell nobody. It's just between you and you. And you wouldn't even say it out loud, but you'll write it. Take the secret, wrap it up, and hide it underneath in a drawer or where your socks are, where nobody will ever look. And then maybe in 2 weeks you take out, and then you write a second sentence, and then put it back. The Chinese say to walk around the world, you have to take a first step. Take your first step. For example, if I was going to do it, I would take a piece of paper and I would say, I did not love my dad. How could you say that, you bad boy? Nobody has to know. And then I would wrap it up and I would put it under my underwear where nobody would ever, ever, ever look. And then maybe 2 weeks later, I'd take the paper out. I'd open the paper up and I'd write a second sentence. And the second sentence would say, and he didn't love me. How could you say that? I wrote it. I did not love my father and he did not love me. Please, you can look at my picture of my father 1,000 times. No, nothing. Express it. See, your dad looks great. No, fuck, he was a drunk and a liar. Shut up. No, really, what are you talking about? Be brave. First of all, nobody gives a fuck about what you do. And if you don't even give enough fuck, why should I give enough fuck? But you have to do it. Can I go now? Okay.
Duane and Caroline, thank you so, so much for closing us out with those words and your reading today. Caroline, thank you for stepping in and helping out today. That was amazing. Thank you as well for all the images that we looked at today. And thank you to the Terra Foundation for American Art and to Tiger Foundation for sponsoring the New Social Environment and making these conversations possible. Thank you, Christopher, for your amazing hosting today. The Rail has been free and independent for 25 years. You can donate to support our work at the link in the chat. On Saturday, November 8th, tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Art Cake, there will be a panel discussion featuring Michael David, Phyllis Haddis, Chris Martin, and Judy Pfaff, and hosted by Pepe Carmel and Fong H. Bowie, our publisher and artistic director, on the occasion of Singing in Unison Part 12. Please do join us there. And if you're free on Monday at 1 p.m., join us for a conversation with James Casebeer and Tom McGlynn on the event of the Spatial Unconscious at the Williamsburg Biennial. And as is Rail tradition, you all can now turn on your microphones and say hello and goodbye as you leave. Thank you so much for joining us today. And please join me in saying thank you to Christopher and to Duane.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Duane. Thank you, Christopher.
Bye.
Thank
you,
Duane.
See you in my dreams.
Yes, congratulations on the show.
Around love.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it. I'm
Okay.
seeing today.
Oh, I'm turning off that tall.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.